Okay, so I'm here with Toby Delius in Schiller Park in Reading in Berlin, and we're going to talk about the composers Misha Mengelberg, Cor Fuhler, Bergin and Keith Tippett, and it's in relation to the concert we did together in August 2020.
Wow, it's a long time ago.
Yep. The first piece we played was by Misha Mengelberg, entitled Mutter aller Orlogen,
which means mother of all wars.
quite apt.
which a quote from Nebuchadnezzar, I think, the ancient king of the Sumerians. Well, I'm not sure. Anyways, the old mother of all wars, and that's why he wrote it. That's the title.
Do you know why he came up with that title?
I know, because he wrote it. I'm not because I learned it. Actually, we started playing it again. It was an old piece of his, which was in the ICP repertoire, which long before I joined the band. But we played it again because we were in the States when it was the second Kuwait-Iraq war.
2003.
Yeah. And so then we fixed on a lot of the set lists we did on that tour.
Yeah, it has almost a joyful feeling.
It's a
sort of apocalyptic joy.
Yeah. And I mean, often Misha and everybody would just would be more like a very destroy this kind of happy feel about it. You know. It's a very nice tune. But
Yeah, it's a fantastic tune.
Anything to be done with it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then the next piece was also by Misha Mengelberg, which is called Which One Aimed Best, which is a sort of canon.
Exactly, that's a piece which actually I never played with Misha. I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Michael Moore, who just was going through all the pieces of paper and old scores, and he brought this to a rehearsal for the ICP once.
Yeah.
And I liked it. That's why I thought it might be nice for us.
Yeah.
I have no idea what Misha, for what occasion he wrote it, or because Misha did in the 70s write a lot of pieces also for theatre pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
And for the plays and for other, so I wouldn't know where this piece actually originated.
Yeah, no, it's a nice canon.
It
fits well in the set. And quite classical actually.
Yeah.
Okay, and we can move on now to the next. I mean, one thing we should say about this special feature of this concert was that all the composers we were playing are no longer on the planet.
Yeah.
So some recently departed, like Cor Fuhler. Bergin departed a while ago, but relatively recently. Keith Tippett also died only in 2019. And Misha in...
not that long ago. Yeah, I wouldn't know the date. We'll look it up. Yeah.
So it was like also a tribute concert to all these. I mean, they're all amazing characters and all unique characters.
Yeah.
All somehow in the jazz tradition, but also not.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next Keith Tippett. So we played two pieces by him. The first piece was called Thoughts to Jeff. So did you know Keith well? Or?
I didn't know. I hardly knew Keith. I mean, we met a few times. Change a few words, but I actually don't know. I saw him play quite a few times. I think when I was very young, the first time I saw Peter Brutzmann play, that was in Saarbrücken. That was with Keith. I remember being quite impressed.
Yeah.
I was like 17, 18 or something. And then afterwards I saw him a few times in London, but I never actually spent much time with him. I think you'd know.
Yeah, I knew him quite well. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
For me, he was quite a formative influence.
Yeah.
When I was young, like I remember, when I first heard him play, and then when I first took his workshop, for me it was like a total revelation. Music revolutionized my life in many ways. Plus, he was extremely encouraging to me, which was very, very important. I guess there's one connection with you is the South African connection. Because he played a lot with Louis Maholo and he played with Viva La Black.
Yeah, I mean that's also a composer will show up a bit later on your list. Sean. There was of course the South Africans who came to Europe. In the starting in the 60s. They had a huge influence on the scenes both in London and in Amsterdam and elsewhere, but we know, of course, more specific about the Amsterdam and London scenes. And they brought a whole new kind of energy to the improvised music.
This mixture of this sort of liberating free jazz feeling, but with a real groove and with this very uplifting but also angry spirit. This kind of very fiery. I always experience this as extremely fiery and powerful. And then when you bring that to a place like London, which has its own characters and its own sort of rebellious spirit, it's a very nice mix. Also Holland. That piece wasn't exactly a South African piece. It was more of a sort of 12/8 sort of filmic piece. That's a piece that we played often in the summer school. He had a sort of standard repertoire that we always played. But I just remember that piece especially because when we played it, it was the first time I had this feeling that there's a pulse, but there's no one. It's swinging like hell. It's like moving, and it's a bit similar because we both went to Ghana. This feeling of rhythmic flow. And you can't really say there's a one. There's definitely a pulse. Which people share, but it's also shifting all the time. And I think Keith was a specialist in that. He often talked about that, to be in time and then to be outside of time. And then sort of simultaneously moving. And I think that's also an African thing.
For sure.
Well, I don't know if we succeeded, but I think we captured some of that in our concert. Okay, seeing as we're talking about South African, the other composer we featured in our concert, who is also a very good friend of yours, is Sean Bergin. We played one piece, Stole Away, maybe.
Stole Away. That's a piece I'm very fond of Sean's. I think the title he was like came from. I think he really liked stealing, as you would call it, ideas or fragments or melodies from wherever he picked them up, and it was a word play on stowaway, of course, because in a ship. And I actually remember as he was putting that piece together, I was sitting on the bus with his penny whistle, and anyhow, I mean, Sean was a huge influence to me as a musician, but also as a friend. I mean, also one of the first people I met when I came to Amsterdam.
Also in the 80s.
And It was very encouraging, and we became
Very
close
good
friends.
friends.
And as well, I learned a lot of his songs.
Yeah.
And I like to part of my repertoire. I like to throw them in different combinations, and I think it fit well for this group. So I like that piece a lot. And, Sean is another example of people disregarding conventional hierarchies and just meeting with people, at face value. I mean, he was an amazing social animal too. He visited a few times in Berlin. That was always towards the end of his life.
Yeah.
And within a couple of days, he would know the names of all the people in all the bars. Although we'd lived there for a few years, we hadn't met them yet. I mean, Sean was a very gregarious person.
Yeah.
And he was also very good at inspiring. He was a great teacher. I attended a few workshops, and I also just watched him do workshops from children to old people, and he always managed to, with whatever there was and material or characters were there, to create something. He was very good at that. It's a huge influence on me.
Was he mainly an alto player or?
I think
tenor.
Alto and tenor. I think he went off through phases. I think he would in the end. I think would say the tenor was his
tenor.
Favorite. I think. But I mean, there were times in his life when he played a lot more alto. I mean, I think he really liked both of them. And he was also an amazing soprano player.
Yeah.
And he played the concertina and the ukulele.
He was an all-round musician.
Yeah, he was I thought he was a pretty good singer too, I must say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And an amazing character.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when you meet Sean, you never forget.
Yeah. I mean, there's thousands of anecdotes. And I was just in Amsterdam this last weekend, and I was cycling through town, and on every corner there's a Sean story.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, a lot of them are to do with bars, but not necessarily. I mean,
Not only.
No.
So talking of Amsterdam, the other composer we featured in our concert was Cor Fuhler.
Yeah,
who we both knew.
Yeah.
And when did you meet Cor?
Well, actually, it was all the same. As I came to Amsterdam, it was one of the also when I came in 1984, when I went to the conservatory. He was also a student there, so within the first few months I met him there. And Cor was always, in a way, separate and different than the rest. I mean, he was obviously extremely talented, but he was less gregarious than some of us. I mean, like a lot of us, we just couldn't wait for the rehearsal to end or the class to end to go to the bar or but Cor kind of. So he would join us sometimes, but a lot of times he would just go away and practice or compose or invent his instruments.
Yeah.
I remember one time as the school was closing for the weekend, he hid somewhere and got locked himself in. And he had a pile of peanut butter sandwiches, so he just to be able to practice for the whole weekend.
Amazing.
So he stayed like there from I don't know if it was Friday evening or Saturday afternoon until Monday morning to practice. Just to practice, and he probably got to sleeping. I don't know how he. So he was, in a way, always was in his own world, and it's tragic that
he died young.
He died young, and I fear also he died lonely, which is heartbreaking.
No, it's very sad. Yeah.
But also he's always making his own music, his own pieces. Whether he also, as I knew him, he was really involved, like in the jazz idiom. That was only one of many things he did. And
he was a real inventor. Right?
Yeah,
with electronic instruments and
with all
homemade
kinds of
instruments.
And also his composing techniques. He found out all kinds of ways how to organize material and make it for improvising also.
Yeah.
And and also he was always interested in combining, introducing new musicians to each other rather than just going down the trodden path.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a very interesting character. And,
amazing character.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to before he left Amsterdam, he started this larger group called the conccert.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the most intensely I worked with him, as in with his composed material, because otherwise we did a lot of improvising. We had this series in the Feature we'd have different drummers, but that was basically all improvised. But in the orchestra, he would bring all this material, and it was really fascinating to see. And one of the pieces he brought was that piece I ended up playing called Rhythm 3, which actually has a text to it which I forgot.
That was the piece we ended our concert with.
Yeah.
And it was kind of it sort of has a sad feeling. I mean, also because of the context. Yeah. But anyway, the piece has this sort of slightly lullaby, melancholic feeling to it.
If I remember rightly, he had passed away quite recently.
Yeah, it was very recent.
It was just after, so
it was not long after.
Yeah, so it was obviously we were still.
We were still processing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny with Cor. I also didn't know him super well, but he changed my life. I mean, because he just gave me his old place in Amsterdam.
Exactly. You ended up in his apartment.
Because I was looking for a place, and I hardly knew him, and he just called me, and he said, "Just come around. I've got the place for you."
Fantastic.
And I arrived in his place, and he gave me the keys. Said, "Here's your place." And I was like, I couldn't really understand it. Then I got a bit paranoid because I was afraid that. It was a little bit unofficial, and and he just told me if you only ever play by the rules, you never do anything. He really said that, and I was like, that was a good lesson.
Yeah.
Also a musical lesson. So I was very grateful to him. Even I didn't know him so well, and afterwards I saw him sometimes when he would speak, but I didn't know him. But he was a fantastic character, and quietly powerful.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I know, and also. Not long after you came, he moved also to Australia, right? So
exactly.
In the end, we didn't even see him that often in the last years of his life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Misha Mengelberg. Thank you, Misha Mengelberg. Thank you, Keith Tippett. You were with it. Thank you, Keith Tippett. Thank you, Sean Bergin. You were a great one. You still are a great one. And thank you, Cor Fuhler. You couldn't have done more, Cor.
Charly Birkenhauer.
Yeah.